a second. Just give me 1 second.
Need a search and optimization SEO services? Then get in touch with our professional and friendly team to learn more about our range of custom and tailored services designed to suit your exact needs. Every one of our professionals have acquired years of experience, which ensures you get the very best. Our experienced staff is waiting to hear from you and to answer any specific questions that you may have on how we can meet your needs. Just ask for a consultation and let us prove our commitment to you as we promise to maintain the highest level of quality and commitment. Your satisfaction is our prime concern. So please, don't hesitate to get in contact with us and let us show you all the great options we have.
And we are the Coalition, loud and proud, outrage porn-free, civilly disobedient media broadcasting live on the worldwide Coalition Radio Network at coalitionradionetwork.com, facebook.com/the Coalition Radio, on the mighty Twitter at Coalition_radio, and of course the mothership at coalitionradio.us, where links can be found to our Spotify page, our YouTube page, our Spreaker page, our Civil Liberties blog, where ongoing content about organizations representing you and the community, fighting on behalf of you for your civil liberties. You know, one of the more interesting aspects of doing this is that you get to meet a lot of people, and you get to interview a lot of folks, and occasionally you run into an old friend who maybe you lost touch with for a year or two or so, and you reconnect. And particularly at a time like this, it's important to reconnect with old friends, even if sometimes we have to just do it virtually. And in doing so, you realize how people's lives have changed and evolved, new businesses, new family members, new relationships. And imagine my delight when I, for the first time in maybe a couple of years, I got to speak to our guest tonight. Anthony Spiratos has been a pal for a long time. Folks know him from being involved in government and political circles, particularly around Aquidneck Island. He's a lifelong Islander. No mainlander is he. And his family has deep roots in the community on Aquidneck Island as well. A family cleaning business, a family real estate investment company, and all of which Anthony is intimately involved in now. And basically he's morphed from being something of a political activist to someone now who is hiring islanders, creating wealth, and providing a lot of valuable services. And that's why I was intrigued to have him on tonight, because I want him to talk about his business, and at a time when we need to celebrate startups and celebrate innovation and celebrate the free market. And we need to understand more than ever that innovators like Anthony and a whole host of other Rhode Islanders are really our future. Because as we realize, without getting too political tonight, because it's really going to be about the business, the government's got in the way of a lot of things, and they're kind of admitting it now by how they're reacting to this crisis. And so as government starts to step away, it's important for Rhode Islanders, particularly lifelong Rhode Islanders, longtime Rhode Islanders, with investments in the community, not just financial, but family, friends, that they step up and provide new opportunities and new services for other Islanders. So, Anthony, it's great to see you again. It was great to reconnect. And welcome for the first time in several years to the Coalition. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Pat.
So tell me a little bit about your family's history on the island, because I think that's important to this. You know, we've had a couple of folks from the island join us, and there's a, particularly for folks like me who didn't grow up in Rhode Island, came to Rhode Island, I've been here about 30 years, the island has got its own culture, its own milieu. And there's folks who are from other places tend to think of Aquidneck Island as sort of a vacation spot. And obviously it is. It's a world-class destination. But there's so much more, and there's a community that you're part of. Tell us your family history, if you will.
Well, my family came here roughly around early 1900s, and we came from Portuguese side came from San Miguel, and then the Greek side came from an island called Kefalonia in the Ionian Sea. Both sides of the family had something in common. We came to this country dirt poor, nothing but the American dream. With just the shirts on our back, and we pretty much had a vision of a better life. And as a kid, it was instilled in me that every generation should build upon the next. So to give you kind of a brief overlay of my family's history on the island, on the Greek side, my grandfather was a shoe shiner that saw an opportunity, ironically, in the Great Depression. Now, I think that we're probably going, or we are currently in a recession, possibly, and hopefully not a depression. So in that aspect, things are kind of similar. And he saw an opportunity to get into dry cleaning, and dry cleaning wasn't a big thing back then. And he saw an opportunity to basically get into that. And from there, he was so good at it that he actually got the U.S. Navy to be a contract. And then he went from just him to having 100 people work for him. So he was able to employ people during the Great Depression, right through World War II. And he basically got into selling war bonds from his dry cleaning plant. He did so much business on the island that he actually sold about $2.5 million worth of war bonds back then. It was so much that they actually, the U.S. government was actually able to buy a fighter jet called the Spirit of Greece that actually bombed the Axis powers. So I always learned a lot of stories from my grandparents, and they're very inspiring. My mom's side, really quick, was into farming, and they saw an opportunity. They rented land, and then from there, as they saved money, they started to buy land in Middletown, and then they got a contract with Lay's Potato Chip Company. And they just kept buying more and more land. And then pretty soon they had the largest farm on the island. That farm today is actually a golf course. Newport National Golf Course was the old Rego farm on my mom's side. So we always were into business. We always saw opportunities, and we got to help out a lot of people along the way, thankfully, when it wasn't popular back before civil rights and everything. And even, during civil rights, my grandparents hired a lot of African Americans, gave them an opportunity. A lot of people in lower income bracket were given jobs, and they were able to advance and through the company, and they ended up bettering themselves, ended up going to school, ended up becoming lawyers, doctors, and things of that nature. So that's what's great about this country. You can basically start with nothing, and from there you can end up with a business that hopefully is prosperous. And by the way, I agree with you. The government does have sometimes too much intervention in a lot of cases. I mean, some cases you need some kind of government intervention, I think, but not to get too much into politics. But all in all, the less government intervention, the better.
Well, it's ultimately going to be up to, and we're going to focus on Aquidneck Island a little bit tonight, but it's going to be up to islanders, if you will, to rebuild the economy for islanders. And
Yes.
that sounds like an oversimplification, but there's going to have to be an awful lot of work and a lot of sacrifice and some innovation and a little bit of luck and some entrepreneurial skills and sensing that even in times of tragedy like this, there is opportunity for those who are willing to lead and those who are willing to reinvest in a community like Aquid Lake Island or Providence or Cranston or Warwick. It's it's essentially like a call to arms. It's not unlike selling war bonds. It's a call to arms, and that call to arms has to go out, and focus needs to be on, as they say, sticking to your knitting. And that means starting businesses where money is brought back into the community. It stays in the community. Community folks are hired. They spend their money at local businesses, and that's how a community prospers. And obviously there's a lot of steps involved in that. There's a lot of steps involved. But the first thing folks can do is look to those who are willing to lead in challenging times. So I congratulate you on the having the guts, quite frankly, to expand into this economy. That's where opportunity exists. So your family's got you're starting to tell us a little bit. Your family's got a long-term history in the dry cleaning business. Sounds like they were early adopters of that. If you can tell us about the dry cleaning business, just give folks a brief explanation of that, say, as opposed to a laundry business. And it's what aspects do you guys engage in currently in Valet, and then let's morph into the new business.
So the actual dry cleaning business, that was my grandfather's, and it's actually that side of the business is no longer in existence. So we're now in cleaning. Mm-hmm. So we do predominantly Airbnbs and any kind of sort of cleaning that's needed, deep cleaning and things like that. Now, as you can imagine, when this pandemic hit, the Airbnb market tanked, and majority of my business was Airbnbs in that particular business that I have. So I had to make a choice. It was either you lay off everyone or you adapt, and then I chose to adapt. So my goal is to keep all the employees that I have in the current company, the cleaning company, and expand from there. And I believe that we can, and I believe that we can make a big impact, and that we can hire a lot of people from the hospitality industry that have been laid off, and they're waiting, and oftentimes they're waiting for the government to come and bail them out, and help is very slow, and
Right.
and it's going to be up to us as a community to step up, because we have no other choice right now. I mean, our tourism industry is shot. I mean, we're we're practically not allowed to, go outside, according to certain government officials and everything. And there's obviously there's a pandemic going on, and people do have to be careful. But during crises like this, we can adapt in such a way that maybe, just maybe, we can be a beacon of light in this part of the state, and maybe in this part of the country, where we can actually even prosper during tough economic times such as this. We did it. Certain businesses did it during the Depression, and they flourished. And I believe that we can do that again in 2020.
What? So you've got folks out in the field. Are people prohibited in Rhode Island from opening up their Airbnbs, or is it simply a reflection of the times that folks aren't going? Because there are states which have literally shut down short-term rentals.
So it's my understanding that they're not forced to shut down their Airbnbs. However, people that come from out of state have to quarantine for 14 days under the executive order of the governor. So if they come here, they got to stay 14 days if they're going to follow the law. and I don't know. I mean, they may or may not follow that. So it's difficult to police. There's obviously not enough, people that can do that. So it's very hard to police, and so 14 days basically they have to stay here. That makes it hard to be in any kind of hospitality industry, like owning a hotel or an Airbnb, because I know from firsthand experience, because I have Airbnbs myself,
Right.
that the average length that I've seen is about 3 or 4 days,
Right.
and then you get a lot of people that stay a couple of nights, so you're not going to, it's very rare when you get that, that 2 week rental.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you do get something like that, it's great. I mean, it's a great thing. But those
Mm-hmm.
are rare. So I'd be curious to see what's going to happen this summer, because what's going to happen with the restaurant industry? I mean, are they going to be allowed to open up inside, or are they going to have to do something inventive? And that's where I saw basically a problem in what's going on, and that is, you have these out of state apps, right, which were efficient when there wasn't a pandemic going on.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, I mean, you didn't really need that customer service aspect of things like you do now. Now you need really, really good customer service in order to prosper. And these apps also take, my understanding, 30, 40, sometimes 50% commission on the food that from the restaurant. So how does the restaurant make money? I mean, and during a pandemic like this, every dollar, every cent counts. So you got to watch your pennies during something like this. So they need an affordable service in order for them to adapt and survive and maybe even thrive. Because
Right.
I think you're going to see a lot of, you're going to see a surge in takeout restaurant business, because you can't go in, you can't sit in a restaurant. And even when they do open the restaurant up, how are they going to do it? I mean, are people going to come? I mean, or are they going to still want takeout? I mean, I think some people will, but I mean, it's a huge variable. So my goal was to offer a service that was affordable to the average person and to the average restaurant, because everybody's experiencing tough times right now. So in order to do that, we have to kind of think outside the box. And then there's the other side of the business that I'm starting, and that is the errand business. And
Mm-hmm.
I saw with a lot of these apps like Instacart and Peapod, you're waiting for your groceries forever. I
Right.
mean, by the time you get your groceries, you're going to be collecting Social Security. I mean, that's how slow they are.
Yeah, I can tell you from personal
And I mean, you're
experience.
waiting a week, 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah, you're days out even to get an appointment, and if you should get an appointment, then it's a question of what they have for your appointment to be fulfilled. So, hallelujah, I can get Peapod here at, and it's frankly luck of the draw. I mean, I hit the holy grail in Peapod about a week ago.
Yeah.
I got a Monday morning appointment. They were there. Were great service. They were there between 10 and 11, and I didn't get my blueberry preserves, but I got 2 12-packs of toilet paper, and they're available for sale. Order near you. Order near you.
Well,
I'm making light of it, but I got to ask you, and this is for families like your family and my family. Walking into a supermarket in the United States, when both of our families left challenging situations in their home country just a couple of generations ago, what does that make you feel like? That's possibly the most stunning part of this, aside, of course, from the tragedy of folks' deaths.
Yeah, it is a tragedy and it's surreal because you'd never think that in the United States of America there would be a food shortage. I
Right.
mean, we're kind of the country of excess if you think about it. I mean, that's that is something that I never thought I would see, in my lifetime. But when something like this happens, the whole system, the whole structure seems to break down. I mean, you have companies like Tyson. I mean, the president can order the company to stay open, but I mean, if people are sick,
Hmm.
they can't work. What are you going to do then? I
Right.
mean, it doesn't. It's very hard to fulfill something
Hmm.
that way. So our goal locally is to make it so that we don't have to wait a week or 2 weeks or sometimes 3 weeks to get groceries. We want same day, next day delivery, and nothing less than that. And
Hmm.
that's where I want to hire a lot of people to from the hospitality industry that have been laid off to come work for this company. And
Hmm.
now, so they're going to obviously be independent contractors, but just like Instacart, but they will be able to keep 100% of their tips also. And it's going to be a great opportunity because the island is a very generous place, and
Hmm.
a lot of people are very generous when it comes to tipping. And I think this will help them out a lot. And I think it's something that will help out, especially a lot of people that can't leave their house. I mean, I'm hearing stories of people that are living in like assisted like nursing homes and everything, assisted living facilities, and they can't leave. They can't go out,
Right.
and get groceries and do the errands that they need to do. So we need to change that to make it easier for them. And what about somebody that's like a single parent or something? They can't bring their kids into the supermarket. I mean, it makes it awfully hard. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to put people back to work. We're trying to make an affordable service that works for everyone. We almost want to be like the Netflix of errand services,
Hmm.
if because you had companies like Blockbuster that you spent like, what was it, a few bucks to rent a movie, and then Netflix comes along and it was $8 a month and you got unlimited movies. So which one would you pick? I mean, it's a no-brainer. So we want a nice affordable service that works for everyone, that everybody can afford.
So that's interesting. So break out, if you will, the pricing schedule and how folks can avail themselves of the service. What's the plan?
So we want to go old school too. So we want a great customer service because let's face it, if you'd use one of these apps and you have a problem, I mean, who do you call? I mean, in most cases, you email somebody and you hope, they email you back. Or if you actually get somebody, they're in Timbuktu somewhere. We're going to have, it's basically locals serving locals. And so there's going to be a customer hotline that somebody can call. We're also going to offer another service too. It's optional. If somebody's got, one of your, say you hire a personal shopper to go in to one of the grocery stores, um, we can actually video chat with you in real time. That way, if something happens to be out, we can give you the option. Do you want us to substitute it for something else, or do you want to just bypass that? That way, at the end of the shopping trip, you know what you're getting, and you're getting exactly what you want. And nothing's substitute it where you end up with half your items or not or stuff that you don't really want. So we saw that as an issue that we wanted to address. So pricing structure, we're looking at several things. The one thing that we're kind of zeroing in on is we want to make it affordable to everyone. So just to kind of touch upon the delivery side, takeout food delivery side of the business, we were thinking about making it about $5 a delivery, which is awfully affordable. So it doesn't matter where you live on the island; it's a flat rate, $5, and Jamestown too. So we were looking at that. Also, as far as errand services go, with grocery shopping and other types of errands, we're thinking of making it about $12 an hour, and we'd bill at half-hour increments. And if you needed us to go, say, off island onto the mainland, as you know, you got to cross those bridges. We would make it $19 an hour. So we think that it would be affordable to most people.
No, that's an excellent price point because that's certainly once you've gotten past that first free delivery for KFC, it gets awfully expensive to deliver a little bit of food. And I think
Absolutely.
and if quite frankly, a lot of those services were in decline because their cost structure was outrageous until COVID hit. Now, of course, as you mentioned, for most people, absent a local choice like your service, you're stuck. I mean, even
Yeah, you're absolutely stuck.
Instacart's expensive. And, of course, you're
Yeah,
talking about people. There are people on a fixed income. There are people who've been employed for years now. All of a sudden, find
or
themselves in
not.
many. Yeah, they're not, and in a lot of cases, we've still got Rhode Islanders waiting um, for their first. In some cases, for their first check, for their unemployment check after being out for a couple of weeks. So it's just a challenging situation for everyone. Plus, of course, like I said, you create the synergy with local businesses, locally owned, locally staffed, and you're acting as a conduit for them to increase their sales. And that's
Exactly.
probably the most important aspect of it all. There's something in economics, without getting too wonky here, called the multiplier effect. And it's actually a critical part of our day-to-day life here in Rhode Island. Why it's important to shop local? Well, it's actually very simple. Folks call you, you pick up their order, your service delivers to them. Now, who just made a little bit of bank? And it's all about the droplets of water that fill up an entire bowl over the course of a day. So you've got local restaurants supplying local people, via a local service. And so you've got a half a dozen people involved in that formula or more, depending on the size of the restaurant, who are going to receive some type form of payment for that. Those folks, particularly on an island like Aquidneck, will use most of that money locally. It could be for their rent. It could be for any of the basics.
Absolutely.
And that's what needs to happen. That's more so than anybody writing anybody a check per se, and we know people are holding on for dear life, and God knows our thoughts and prayers are with them. But
It's hard out there.
it just is, and you're right. It is all about the pennies. So if a local business can turn around the delivery that much faster, I mean, the worst part to me is some of these national services, and it's not the fault of the driver, but the logistics are just a nightmare, and you're paying a lot of money to deliver cold food.
Yeah, you really are.
It's not a restaurant experience at all. It's not a restaurant at home experience. It's just
Yeah.
people are spending $10 and $15 to get $4 with McDonald's. I'm not sure quite how that works. So
I don't either.
you know, so how's the reception been so far in terms of local reaction?
Well, we're just starting to announce this. So we're going to really announce a lot of things this weekend coming up into next week, and then we hope to launch. Our target date is to launch somewhere between May 5th and May 7th, somewhere around there, one of those 3 days. Um, and so far, from the people that I've talked to, they're absolutely ecstatic, because it would be a service where they don't have to wait any longer. They don't have to. They don't have to wait any longer. It's an old-fashioned type service, old school in the sense that you actually get to talk to a person on the other end when you call them and you need something. It's it's not automated, but that's where I think during this pandemic, I think that's a lot where a lot of these apps fail. You need a person. You need a human being, especially that lives locally, that understands your needs. That's
Mhm.
what you need right now. And these apps can't they can't fulfill that. I know just recently I had to call Airbnb because I had an issue. People cancel and stuff left and right, and I actually decided that I was going to cancel my whole season for my own personal Airbnbs because it doesn't make any sense to do it right now. And quite frankly, I have. It's a mixed use place where I have my Airbnbs and I have long term tenants, and the Airbnbs are also in the same building. So I want my tenants to feel comfortable. And we're going through a pandemic, so you don't know who's coming in and out. You know what I mean? Um, so I decided to cancel. So I wanted to call up Airbnb. Now, before the pandemic, you could call up Airbnb and you could talk to a person. It was an average experience usually, but at least you got to typically talk to a person after being on hold sometimes a long time. Well, now you can't talk to anybody. I mean, they send you a link by text of you have to go through this automated option and everything. It's ridiculous. And then you don't get your question answered. You don't get anywhere. So this is where these apps really fail. Another thing too is for drivers, for say doing DoorDash or some of these other companies and stuff. Um, the thing that they do to the drivers is they'll tell you, okay, your delivery, you're gonna pick up something in Newport, right? And the delivery is they tell you it's 6 miles away. Well, what they don't tell you is that 6 miles away from where the crow flies, so it's a direct line. So in actuality, the delivery is in Narragansett, and you got to drive 30 minutes. So you're spending a lot on gas, Easy Pass, all that stuff. Here we eliminate the problem. It's the island and it's Jamestown. And you're going to make a specific amount when you work, and you keep all your tips too on top of that. So it's a win-win for everybody involved.
Yeah, and I had a 2.5 year period where I had two daughters in college simultaneously. It was a magical time. And so I worked full time and drove Lyft a few nights a week. I ended up doing over 3,000 Lyft rides in the space of about 2.5 years while working full time. It was magic. And occasionally I would get pulled over to the island. And, having the familiarity simply with dodging Newport traffic, even in a quiet time like this, is critically important. Being able to react to
Absolutely.
people, not just for the customer, but also for your employees. Because part of this is, I think we're talking to people out there that say, hey, if you live in the area, there's you're going to have the opportunity for some employment coming up, and you're not driving 30 miles like you are. I mean, I had situations where I had Lyft drives where I would have to drive 10 or 15 miles to pick somebody up for an outrageously low fare. And it's,
absolutely.
I mean, and so for the employee, it was just terrible. You weren't happy, and as a result, the customer picked up on it that you weren't happy. It was, you were crisscrossing literally the state. I got to know the state probably a little bit too well, and in the hopes of getting it's great for the consumer, but it's at an extreme in Rhode Island. A Lyft fare anywhere, pretty much from any club to any restaurant to any hotel in Providence, is about a $4 fare. So literally, the driver is getting $2. It's two and a quarter.
It's crazy. Yeah,
Right.
you're working for. I mean, you're not even working for minimum wage. I mean,
Right.
You're actually, if you think about it, you're paying to drive because the gas cost.
Right.
You know.
No. Absolutely. Absolutely. How? Just give us a feel a little bit for folks who are on the mainland in Rhode Island. What's open and what's not in Newport right now on Aquidneck Island? It's because I also want to reach out to folks if any of your customers who have businesses want to come on here. There's no come on, there's no ads, sales, there's no hard pitch or anything else like that. We're always looking for folks to sponsor the show, just like any other business. But it's right now there's an element of, who has a lot of money for advertising right now? We recognize that. So if folks are listening to this or hear this in the near future on Newport, Aquidneck Island, and they want to call in and they want to talk about their business like Anthony is doing, we welcome it. We're dying all to go for a ride over to the island, and so what's been able to stay open? I know the big national hotels are probably mostly shuttered, but have you found a lot of dining that's open?
There has become more and more. At first, there were just a few that decided to adapt and do takeout, and some do delivery and use DoorDash, or they do it themselves. And but I would say there's probably, last time I checked, roughly about 80 restaurants and dining establishments that are open for takeout business.
Wow. Okay.
And they have different menus. I'll tell you, there's some good ones. And if you ever get to the side of the bridge, you got to try it. I'll spout off some that I've tried. There's Mama Leone's, which has always done delivery too and takeout, but they've been phenomenal. Antonio's, Nicholas Pizza, La Forge is wonderful. Johnny's Atlantic Beach Resort. Now that was interesting. Johnny's adapted their whole menu, and they made the early bird special 7 days a week, $14, gets you 3 courses. And I'm Greek and Portuguese, and I eat a lot, and I almost can't finish it. That's how much food there is. It's consistently great. All of them are. They're all great. And these are the ones that I've tried for takeout. I've tried the Cookhouse. They have a different menu. They were wonderful. They're all wonderful. I've heard Pasta Beach is really good.
Right.
Trying to think of some other ones, but I know Sardella's is going to be opening pretty soon on the right hand side of the restaurant. They have like a pizza establishment in it that's wonderful. There's just a lot. There's about 80 restaurants on the island, like I said, and so they're trying to adapt, but it's hard for them to adapt to do, say, delivery, because the only options out there are going to be taking 30, 40, 50% of their delivery profits and commission and everything. So that's why we want to offer them a new service that's fair and that's affordable to everyone.
Right, and the important thing too is all of a sudden you've got insurance issues, driving record issues, all of that. Yep. That's wrapped up into the delivery experience, whereas someone like yourself is approaching that as part of your day-to-day business. You're managing your drivers much like an HR department would manage their personnel, and everyone is going to be fully insured. And there's, you're not going to have that type of drama. Exactly. You're also not going to have your $19 or $25 entree sitting in the back with someone's lacrosse gear either.
No way.
Yeah, I just to kind of be a little blunt there.
Exactly. And the great thing is too that we are hiring people that have been laid off from the hospitality industry, and they have expertise in customer service, which is great.
Well, if people are in a position to go out, per se, the new going out, if you will, which is to try and bring that restaurant experience home. Because here's the other challenge. You've got considerable amount of people out on the island, husband and wife both working from home, potentially a young child studying at home, perhaps a college age student studying at home. It's tough. It's chaotic. You're in tight quarters all the time. There's tension. There may or may not be any place to run or hide. So on that one night when you're going to treat yourself, because again, everybody's watching their budget, that one night you're going to treat yourself, you want it to be right. You want it to show up with some sort of flourish, a little bit of, you want it to be special. Particularly if you're
Absolutely.
if you're dining out at this point in time. It's got to be, and listen, events, this has been going on long enough now. My daughter lives in Brooklyn, and we're going to be doing the Zoom birthday party. We drop shipped a cake to her, and, those can get emotional enough because you're removed. You don't need the tension of inconsiderate or unprofessional delivery as well. And so the beauty here is you get the best of all worlds. Professionally delivered, you're supporting local businesses, you're supporting local restaurants. And the restaurant business is the gem of Rhode Island. That's what makes us different. And on so many different levels. I can't stress enough that the immigrant experience here in Rhode Island, whether it be in Providence and CF and Pawtucket and West Warwick, and even parts of Warwick, and as well as on the island, it's that international flair that our cuisine has that we can't take for granted. And I fear that if we lose it, it will be very difficult to get it back. It's always been a place, Rhode Island, where the costs of doing business, despite some other issues, are a little bit more affordable than, say, a Boston or one of the suburbs of Boston. And so as a result, the dynamic is electric. You've got so many different choices. What are the range of choices that folks, if they visit Newport, they can in terms of just ethnic food? I've got to imagine it's literally everything.
I mean, you're absolutely right. We have everything under the sun and then some. We have, everything from the best seafood to Italian to Greek to Portuguese to amazing sushi and hibachi places to everything in between. A lot of farm to table food, which is it's wonderful. There's just so many ideas. I went before the pandemic. I went to God, I can't remember the name of the place. It escapes me, but it's on Broadway. It's a place that they serve like noodles, and it's like every kind of noodle under the sun. It's good. It's amazing. It was so good. I loved it. They have great coffee shops. They have. Not to mention not only just the restaurants, but we have such an amazing backdrop. And one thing that I have seen that it's almost like I'm in the twilight zone here because it's like the 1980s and 90s where people are not on their phone and they're actually walking around enjoying nature and they're outside. I'm seeing a lot of that, on the island. I see people walking around, families, going for an evening walk. That type of stuff that you haven't seen in a while is occurring again. We have a great scenery around here. We have Cliff Walk. As long as I guess you practice, social distancing and you don't get too close to everybody. There's plenty of room around here, to walk around and, enjoy, the outdoors and, as long as, you do it, in a responsible manner.
Well, you've got a website. I want you to engage in a little bit of shameless self-promotion in the few minutes we have left. Your website's coming online, but give us an overview of how folks can find out about all your businesses.
Yeah, so we're going to have two websites that are going to be coming online. One is No Contact Valet, Spiratos.com, and that is the name of the company and the company that will be doing deliveries and errands. And then to see the company, different companies and stuff that I have on the island is Spiratosgroup.com. That will be coming online. And then the cleaning company that I already have in existence is valetcleaningusa.com. Yeah, very excited. I have a very good feeling that this is going to be a great success for the community, that we can put people back to work, and we can weather this pandemic and this crisis if we come together, and I believe that this community can do so.
Excellent. Well, Anthony, I can't tell you how good it is to see you again, to chat with you about your new business, exciting opportunities. And again, let's get people fired up to support local businesses. Let's take advantage, if you will, of this opportunity. In tragedy can lie opportunity. And I think we owe it to all of our fellow Rhode Islanders to really present our A game. And you're certainly doing that with your efforts. And folks, when the website's up and running this week, after the big splash, we're going to be sharing it with all of you, so you have an opportunity. If you're anywhere in that part of the island, we want you, and again, to provide that synergy, inject a little of your own fire into the local economy, and support Anthony in his efforts. So, congratulations, buddy, and let's talk soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Great seeing you, Pat. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Anthony Spiratos, innovator, entrepreneur, community member, family man, doing the right thing by his hometown. My challenge is to all of you: can you support the Anthony Spiratoses of Rhode Island who are stepping up? And maybe can you be inspired by them to bring your own ideas to the table? We are the Coalition, loud and proud, outrage porn free, civilly disobedient media, broadcasting live on the worldwide Coalition Radio Network at coalitionradionetwork.com, facebook.com/the Coalition Radio, on the mighty Twitter at coalition_radio, and of course, coalitionradio.us, with links to virtually everything. Folks, if you could take a moment, if you will, and sponsor, if you will, us on our Facebook page. What I mean by that is just liking us, sharing it. Follow us on the YouTube, follow us on the Twitter. Social media is what indie media lives by. We're going to take a quick break right now. We're going to go into something called LPTV, which is a little bit of a political bent. That'll be going on for an hour. And at 9 o'clock, we're going to have our favorite Southwestern professor come in and talk about what's going on down at the border in Mexico during these days of COVID. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.